Hi there, and welcome to this video on dividing in a given ratio. We're going to look at questions when you're asked to divide a quantity, to divide a number into a given ratio. So we're going to be asked to divide a quantity into the ratio that appears in the question. First thing to talk about is this notation, 5 to 3. 5 dot dot 3. So when we say this, we would say 5 to 3. Or I may refer to it as 5 dot dot 3. Either way, I'm referring to the ratio 5:3. Let's look at this first typical question. Paul and Jane share $240 in the ratio 5 to 3. Calculate how much each person receives. One other thing to note at this point is the order of the question. Paul comes first in the worded question and Jane comes second in the worded question, which means that Paul is associated with the first number in the ratio, the 5 parts, and Jane is associated with the second number in the ratio, the 3 parts. And we're asked to calculate how much each person would receive if we divided $240 into this ratio. Let's have a look at what your working out should look like. I've just put a visual representation on the right-hand side of the screen. Sometimes you may see questions like this explained using this visual idea. But what I'm going to focus on in this video is the more mathematical approach using the calculations on the left-hand side of the screen. But for this first question, I have placed them side by side. So this is the method we would use to solve this question. First of all, I want to know how many parts are in the ratio altogether. So I'm going ahead and adding the ratio. 5 add 3 tells me I'm dealing with 8 parts. So I've got 8 parts altogether in this ratio question. Then I want to work out what is the value of one part in the ratio. So what is the value of every one part? So then I go ahead and do a division. I do the quantity in the question, which is 240, divided by the total of the parts in the ratio to find that one part of the ratio in this question is worth 30. So if I know one part in the ratio is worth 30, I can go ahead and do 2 multiplications to get my final answer. This side of the ratio is Paul's side, and he is going to receive 5 parts. So 5 times 30 tells me that Paul needs to receive $150. Jane's side of the ratio receives 3 parts. So when I multiply this by 30, I'm told that Jane receives $90. You can see how it's explained visually here. This is the full ratio I'm dealing with. If I split the 8 parts into 5 parts and 3 parts, so this is Paul's section and this is Jane's section. If I then go ahead and divide the full box, the full rectangle, into the 8 individual parts that this ratio question consists of, and I know that each of those parts is worth $30, you can see again how it's divided between Paul, adding up these 5 boxes will give me 150, and Jane, adding up these 3 boxes will give me 90. But for the rest of this video, I'm only focusing on these calculations. So I've worked through the first question and I found that Paul receives $150 and Jane receives $90. I'm pretty sure I'm correct because if I add those together, 150 add 90, they add to give me the original quantity of $240. So I've divided $240 into the ratio 5:3. Okay, in this question, we are asked to share 45 kilograms in the ratio of 2 to 3. In the ratio 2 dot dot 3. This time I'm going to talk through my explanation and notation a step at a time. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add up all parts in my ratio to find out how many parts of the ratio there is altogether. So I'm going to add 3 to tell me that I'm dealing with 5 parts of the ratio altogether. So step 1 is an addition, adding up the numbers in the ratio. Step 2, I'm going to carry out a division. The quantity in the question divided by the total amount of parts is going to tell me the value of one part within the ratio. So this division here for step 2 is telling me that every one part in this ratio is worth 9 kilograms. Step 3, I'm going to do a couple of multiplications. Now I know that every one part is worth 9. This side of the ratio includes 2 parts, so 2 times 9 is going to tell me I have 18 on this side of the ratio. And there's 3 parts on this side of the ratio, so 3 times 9 is going to tell me I have 27 parts. So what I'm left with is the split of 45 kilograms based on this ratio. The 2 side is worth 18 and the 3 side is worth 27. So here's my final answer. Sharing 45 kilograms in the ratio of 2 to 3 will leave me with 18 kilograms dot dot 27 kilograms. Again, if I was to add both of these quantities up, they would add up to the original quantity in the question. So that helps me confirm that I've done my calculations correct. Here's another question to have a go at. Remember, you have the ability to pause the video at this point. So if you want to work ahead with this question before I talk through my explanation, then please do so now. James, Sarah, and John share $420 in the ratio 1 to 5 to 2. So this time we're dealing with a triple ratio. Calculate how much each person receives. So even though we're dealing with 3 sections in the ratio, we are still going to apply the same method in the same steps that we did on the previous slide. Step 1, I'm going to do an addition to find out how many bits of the ratio there is altogether. So I'm going to add 1 to 5 to 2 to tell me that I'm dealing with 8 parts in this ratio, 8 sections in this ratio. Now I want to calculate how much every one part is worth. So I'm going to do step 2, which is a division. The value in the question, which is $420, divided by how many parts in the ratio altogether, which is 8, tells me that every one part of the ratio in this question is worth $52.5, $52.50. Then I'm going to go ahead and do step 3, which is the multiplication step. Because I have 3 sections in my ratio, I'm going to do 3 multiplications. 1 times 52.5 for this part of the ratio, 5 times 52.5 for the middle section of the ratio, and 2 times 52.5 for this part of the ratio. I'd go ahead and work out those 3 calculations, and that will tell me that this is my answer. 52.5 dot dot 262.5 dot dot 105. Remember, the first value in the ratio corresponds to the first name in the question. So this is James's value. This is James's amount. Sarah is in the center, so she would receive this value, and John is third in the question, so the 105 is John's value. There's my final answer to this question. I've presented it in dollars because the question is talking about dollars, and again I could double check my answer by adding my three values together to make sure they added up to $420. Okay, so here is a task for you to have a go at. On the left-hand side of the screen, I've put 6 worded ratio questions, and on the right-hand side of the screen, there is 6 answers. I'd like you to spend a little bit of time showing me a full written method, showing me your full working out. Can you match up the left-hand side to the right-hand side? Could you go ahead and match up those boxes now, please? Could you pause the video now? Okay, welcome back. I'll just go ahead and show you the correct matchings for each question. Your matchings should look something like that. So I'll just talk you through one or two of the questions. If we look at the top question here, if I add 2 and 3 together, I get 5. 50 divided by 5 would tell me that every 1 in the ratio is worth £10. 2 times 10 is 20. 3 times 10 is 30. Very well done if you were able to match that one up. Let's have a look at this question down here. Callie, Sam and Jonathan share 2,100 in the ratio 5:3:6. What are Sam and Callie's shares? So notice it's talking about Sam and Callie. And look at the way the question is worded. What are Sam and Callie's shares? So in the question, Sam comes first and Callie comes second, and we're not even asked to show Jonathan's value. So even though this ratio includes 3 people, the answer is only in 2 parts because of the way the question is set up, because of the context of the question. So just double check you have matched that question up correctly as well. Very well done if you were able to get all 6 matched up correctly. Now I would like you to have a go at 4 GCSE style questions. So using what we've looked at the beginning of the video, the slides we've been through at the beginning of the video, and the notation and the way we've set out the questions and our answers, can we have a go at these 4 exam questions? You can see for the top 2 boxes, there is 2 marks allocated, and for the 3rd and 4th box, you need to show me 3 bits of method to get your full marks. Could you have a go at each question? Could you pause the video now, and when you unpause the video, I'll show you my full written solutions. Okay, welcome back. Let's have a look at what your full written solutions should look like. Okay, so we can see for the first question up here, we add up all parts of the ratio, so we're dealing with 15 parts. The total perimeter of the triangle was 90, so we divide by 15. Every 1 part in the ratio accounts for 6 centimeters, which is what I've stated here. The question asks us for the longest length. The longest length is, of course, the biggest part of the ratio, which is 7. So we do 7 times 6 to find out the longest length is 42 centimeters. Very similar question here. We do an addition, we do a division, and we do a multiplication. And the question's asking us about boys, so we use the boys part of the ratio, 360. You can see for the 3rd question, we go ahead and apply the 3 steps. We do an addition, a division, and some multiplications to work out all 3 parts of the ratio. But then we need to go ahead and answer what the question asks us, which is how much more does Punita get than Lisa? So we take Lisa's section and Punita's section from our answer and do a subtract to find that there is an £80 difference. So Punita receives £80 more. A slightly different worded question for the 4th box. This time we are only told that that Rajesh receives £240. So we aren't told what the total amount of the ratio is. We are only told what two parts of the ratio equal. So adding these to get 7 is not going to be helpful because we don't know the total amount that they share. We just know that Rajesh receives 240. So all we do is we do 240 divided by 2, because that's what we knew for Rajesh. That tells us again that every one part is worth 120. So now we want the part of the ratio that is 5 parts, so we go ahead and do a multiplication. 5 times the 120 to receive our final answer of 600. So adding these together to get a total of 7 would not be applicable in this question because of the way the question was worded. So a slightly different approach was needed for the final question there. Very well done. If your answers looked like this and you were able to show your full working out for all 4 questions. Okay, let's have a look at this final challenge question. So just like the previous questions, I would like you to pause the video at this point. I would like you to read the question carefully and show me your full working out. How could you approach this question? Valued at 3 marks. Could you have a go? Pausing the video now, please. Okay, welcome back to the video. First thing to notice is this question is worded slightly differently. It's telling you that Sarah gets $15 more than Emily. So it doesn't give you the total quantity of the money together. But what it does tell you is Sarah gets $15 more than Emily. Sarah is the middle of the ratio, so she's represented by the 6. Emily is the last in the ratio, represented by the 4. So what it's telling us there is if we do 6 take away 4, that's going to represent 2 parts of this ratio. It's going to 2 sections of the ratio. So that's telling us that $15 represents 2 bits in this ratio. So we can use that to find the value of 1 part. Let's have a look at the written solution. Here we go. So again, we've highlighted that Sarah receives 6 and Emily receives 4. If we subtract these, we receive 2. So to find 1 part, we would do $15 divided by 2. So every 1 part in this ratio is 7.5. There's my first method mark for finding 7.5. So then in order to work out what Pritam receives, he is the first part of the ratio represented by the 3. So we take the 3, multiply it by the 7.5 to get our answer that he receives $22.50. You can see where the second and third method marks and answer marks come into play. Well done if you were able to answer that question correctly. That shows a great understanding of questions that involve dividing in a given ratio.